Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 36.
Chapter 36.
Chapter 36. The Lesson. Shallan studies Gavilar's recollection of meeting the Parshendi. The written work has been altered by Yasna, who took down Gavilar's words. It is not uncommon for writers to add notes or alter details, a well-known secret among writers. Yasna trusts Shallan enough to have made her a bath attendant. Shallan considers her past while wondering if she could really commit to stealing the Soulcaster. She's curious why Gavilar wanted a treaty with the Parshendi. She wonders if shards and gemhearts played a role, but Yasna recounts the possibility that they may have had access to shard blades. Shallan decides not to steal the Soulcaster. Yasna senses Shallan's anxiety. Shallan asks how Yasna determines what is right without the devotaries, to which Yasna claims that depends upon one's philosophies. Shallan tells Yasna the devotaries aren't evil, but Yasna responds, except when they try to rule the world. Yasna decides to take Shallan on a field trip for a lesson in philosophy. Yasna brazenly strides through an unsafe part of town with Shallan in tow. Shallan is increasingly fearful of the dark, the shadows, the dark eyes, the bells. Yasna leads Shallan into a dark alley where they're attacked by a group of 4 footpads. Methodically, Yasna easily kills each thug using her Soulcaster. Shallan is horrified. She claims Yasna baited them into attacking by flaunting her wealth. Yasna retorts that she did not force them to attack anyone. The two debate the ethics, the philosophy of the situation. Yasna reveals that Taravangian has been concerned about reported murders in the district. The footpads may be bribing the city watch. She did this to help him because of the danger she brought upon him, essentially forcing him to ally with her. Furious over Yasna's callousness and the abuse of something so holy, Shallan switches her Soulcaster with Yasna's. Taking the Dawn Shard, known to bind any creature, voidish or mortal, he crawled up the steps crafted for heralds, 10 strides tall apiece, toward the grand temple above. From the poem of Ista, I have found no modern explanation of what these Dawn Shards are. They seem ignored by scholars, though talk of them was obviously prevalent among those recording the early mythologies.
Oh, the mysteries abound.
Mysteries abound. I imagined, crawling. Imagine how big, Jack and the Beanstalk, how big the heralds must be that would necessitate someone crawling up these steps of theirs.
And I mean, they love this. This is very not well, yeah, it's biblical in or not or mythological or whatever, where there's certain significant numbers. Everything is 10, 10. It's 10 heartbeats. It's 10 heralds. It's whatever. Like so, it's 10 strides is one step basically. Like this number 10 is very important in this whole story.
Mm-hmm. And the Dawn Shards, known to bind any creature, voidish or mortal. So, first off, that suggests that voidish things are not mortal, which makes sense, but...
Yeah. I got excited about what that tells us, yeah, that there is something voidish and something mortal, and those are 2 different things. So
me too.
It tells us a little bit more about what voidish is, yeah.
But let's not gloss over the binding, the word binding. So it's not in prison, but my mind went to the creature that we think, or at least I thought, sounded vaguely, dare I say, voidish, from Kaladin's last chapter, when he went into some sort of ethereal plane. I had supposed that that was in the stone, the sphere, the Dun sphere, which, it could mean that sphere... Well, we still don't quite know what a Dawn Shard is, but I feel like there's a connection there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't. There is some sort of connection. We've got the shard. We've got shard blades, whatever now, but we've got dawn shard, like dawn shard. It starts something, the dawn of something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we just and what is it? A shard of what? What is it? A shard of? And remember, we had not Elantris, in Mistborn, we had Shard of Eternity or whatever it was. So I am that idea. So all of it coming together cosmerically
Yeah.
that's what I'm feeling, but I'm like, I still don't know the answer. It's that same thing where it's like I could probably go online and ask people, but we will discover
No.
in our own time.
Correct.
I'm loving that.
Anything else to say specifically about the epigraph?
No, not at the moment. It'll
All right.
probably pop up and then I'll be like, Dorkus, you're gonna have to put it in the front there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I took a lot of notes. Many of them are scattered, and we may end up having to read segments of this chapter because this is a really wonderful follow-up chapter to the religion discussion. And in many ways, the religion discussion informs the philosophy discussion that occurs, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we these themes are always present with Shalon
Yeah.
and Jasna.
But before we even get to that part, the very first note, and it was necessitated by how early it came in the chapter, women write notes to each other and alter details in books. And it is a well-known secret among these writers that they do this. And I guess like the men just don't know.
They don't know. And although, I mean, there must be some men that have been secretly taught to read or something like that, and
Sure.
they would know something like that. But yeah, that's part of this whole gender dynamic that is like, you see, they could land up doing this sort of thing. It's a sort of weakness that men are then,
Impracticality.
and it's impractical. Yeah, well, it's a practicality for the woman. And the
Sure.
scholars they basically converse or put in their footnotes. And I hated it because of how dishonest it actually is.
Right.
But then read the line, Dorcas.
Wait, the line in the book or what the rest of my note on this topic?
About honesty, yes, it's supposed to maintain honesty apparently.
Yeah. So, well, that's the thing. So I wrote in all caps conspiracy because obviously women are going to misuse this thing. I've been reading Dune, and obviously there are the whole witches of the Bene Gesserit and their stuff that they've got going on. So I'm very much living in this realm of a cabal of women doing conspiratorial things. But what's so interesting about the passage is that Shalon just inherently, matter of factly, presumes that this is all done for the sake of honesty. Let me
Yeah,
find
which it's a dishonest thing to do inherently.
right to forge secret notes and make alterations.
Mhm.
So here's the passage. Most books dictated by men had an undertext, notes added by the woman or ardent who scribed the book. By unspoken agreement, the undertext was never shared out loud. Here, a wife would sometimes clarify or even contradict the account of her husband. The only way to preserve such honesty for future scholars was to maintain the sanctity and secrecy of the writing. That just, it seems so dark and conspiratorial to me.
Yeah, okay, so it isn't for maintaining honesty, it is maintaining secrecy. Okay, I was wrong about the phrasing of that. But it feels like it's not, she still thinks this is a good thing. This is integrity of the writing. Look, I'm all for having footnotes that criticize the main note or something like that. I do think that's fine because the more information, the better. But the thing is that they don't know. The people that are dictating don't know that this is happening. That's what's dishonest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit irritating, a bit of an annoying womanish thing. Okay, sorry, this thing of oh, we know better. and we will correct you in the footnotes, but oh honey, we'll just let you believe that you said all the things that you wanted to say, and every and you told us what the truth is, and then we behind the scenes will converse in our own way to talk about our own truths, because it's actually like, what is it? It's like, it's condescending, and
Yes.
I absolutely abhor it. Okay, you.
It strikes me as rather textbook toxic femininity. There's a little bit
Yeah.
of narcissism there.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's not useful. Like, I honestly think footnotes and things like that can be useful scholarly things, but
Hmm.
this is, like you said, conspiratorial, and it's just, ew, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I guess maybe some people go, "Yay, girl power!" And yes, Ardents apparently are also in on this, but I'm like, no, no, I don't like this. Thank you.
Yeah. Is that something that needs to be a secret? It's I don't think it
Hmm.
does. Like, unless when it talks about wives contradicting their husbands, it strikes me as, that sort of oafish man who overstates his competence type of a
Yeah,
story. So so that I can sort of get, but when we're talking about historical texts and politics and so on and so forth, that secrecy can be very suspicious.
yeah. You know what it's doing? It's actually changing reality for the two parts of society.
Hmm.
Men have a certain history, and women have a secret history. And I suppose probably Branderson thinks that that's, I don't know, I'll see, but maybe he thinks that that's empowering. I don't know what his thoughts about it are, but or some people would find it all empowering because look, the women have a secret history, and they have, or, agency and things like that. I don't care which gender has that. Having a certain power over the other and being just different in that way, I'm not a fan of it.
Well, I'm not yet seeing judgment in the writing from Sanderson himself. This passage strikes me very much as Shalon's POV on the matter, not
Yeah.
Sanderson trying to make a comment about gender dynamics.
Yeah.
There's still time. I would say, though, that thus far, in all of what we've read of Sanderson so far, he seems to be writing a very diverse set of female characters, ideologically speaking, background speaking. So I,
He's
I,
not falling into this woke thing of like the all women are amazing thing. These are still realistic, high definition characters.
right, not yet at least. And I've heard rumors about his newer stuff, which
We're not there yet. We will encounter it at someday, but we're
yes,
here in the beginning.
right. So for the time being, I'm trusting in Sanderson's ability to observe the positives and the negatives of this particular world building element facet.
Before we move on, one more question about this world building element. Do you think that there's like, okay, this is what Shalon thinks, but maybe it's kind of an open secret and men actually do know about this. So this could be like a double bind situation where it's like, no, they know that there's something extra, but they accept it that that's the way the world is. And or
Well,
do you think it's a secret?
I think it's in varying degrees. We do know that
Mhm,
Gavilar essentially said to Yasna, "Hey, spruce this up a bit for me."
mhm.
And it seems like such a hard thing to keep secret from the entire male gender,
Yeah.
especially because we know that there are males out there who can read.
Mhm,
But the way it's characterized here, it really does seem like it's hush hush, no one say a thing.
mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just nobody says a thing. So whether it's known or not, we just don't talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
I obviously will probably get more info on. it'll be expanded.
I agree. It's just this inherent supposition, I suppose, on Shalon's part that the woman making the note is being honest. Like, question their motives too.
Yeah, why not?
This, especially with political writings.
Yes.
The next part of this chapter I want to talk about was this in regard to Gavilar writing about the Parshendi and the Parshmen. Never had I seen anything like this. Parshmen living on their own? All logic, experience, and science declared that to be an impossibility. Parshmen need the hand of civilized peoples to guide them. This has been proven time and time again. Leave one out in the wilderness and it will just sit there doing nothing until someone comes along to give it orders. So on one element, it feels like the Parshmen, as described, are a bunch of lobotomites. At the same time, logic, experience, and science strikes me as very, I don't know the science-y term, bioessentialist, or something to that effect.
That term, yeah.
Eugenicists, eugenicsy. You speak on this, Kite, please.
Yeah, genetic determinism, that sort of thing. That works. I'm sure there's another term, but I understand what you're saying. That like it's this species or this race has a specific biology or specific default, and that's all we know about them.
Right. Makes me wonder,
Mm-hmm.
like, what happened to them? Like, I don't know. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the Parshmen are Parshendi that were cursed or something.
Yeah, there is some divide between Parshmen and Parshendi are the same species.
Yeah.
It seems.
I mean, how would
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of lobotomites just like continue to exist and procreate if they just sit there and do nothing?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. They aren't described as animals either. So it's like they don't just so leaving them there by themselves. That's even animals. If you leave animals by themselves, that's what they do. They go and develop and they procreate and they have their own nature. The way that he speaks about them is like they'll just sit there and die. uh, they won't do anything. So it's weird. What erased the idea of intelligent cultural Parshendi
Hmm.
from the earth because they this was Parshman, that's it. But there had to be something that caused them to just be perceived as just no this that they're just our humble servants. They're just that's who they are. They're there for servantness. It was quite uncomfortable reading that actually.
Yeah. So, and we also have to keep in mind this is from the Alethi perspective. So I'm sure if we asked the Parshendi about the Parshmen, and I wonder if Gavilar did at any point, they would view the Parshmen a bit differently, at least a little bit, perhaps.
They they would probably have some sort of secret history, I would expect.
Yeah.
That they know, or would they have like disdain for Parshmen because it's like you're subservient and whatever. We have our own society over here. We have our own culture. We're developed. We're intelligent. You, on the other hand, are just subservient, and that's all you live to serve others. Whereas we have our own being.
Hmm.
So it would be interesting to know about them, but we don't.
Right. Anything else to say on this particular topic?
Mysteries abound.
Very much so. Still waiting for a Parshendi POV.
Yeah.
Shalon decides not to steal the Soulcaster.
Yeah. That was tense. I was like,
Mhm.
"No, no, don't do it. Is she gonna do it? Is she gonna do it?" No. It was very tense.
Yes, and it was
Mhm.
Yasna complimenting her incredible, oh gosh, what's the potential? That's the word. Her incredible potential that convinces Shalon not to do it.
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, okay, I can't do this." Like I was happy when she says, "I can't do this. I've come all this way and I cannot do it. So she's decided she's not going to do it. And she's upset about that, whatever. But it really, it was so well written with this compliment that she says. And then also obviously going later into have to make decisions like this. That whole thing later on. But being in that mode of her just going, oh, I can't do this. I was like, yes, thank you. Okay, so this is sorted. Cool. We're good. Obviously, I was mistaken, but
as was I. I did not
mhm,
expect the book to take the turn that it did. So as she makes that decision, and then Yasna notes that Shalon is anxious, I
mhm,
fully expected Shalon to either admit to what she had been planning or
mhm.
to beg for help for her family. But when does anyone ever make smart decisions like that?
I didn't expect her to at that moment do it. I thought that she was going to stay anxious and whatever, and then maybe in future she'll figure out a way that forward what she could do, what she could say. Like, so I didn't think in that moment she would find a way, she would say ask for help, but I thought, yeah, I was with you on that. Like, she would do it eventually. So she's made the decision not to steal it. Now we're just going to work on how we get to solving the problem for her family, and that's it. But it didn't turn out that way. We had our practical lesson.
Mm-hmm. Did Gavilar see the Parshendi about to summon a shard blade?
It seems like it.
Definitely seems like it.
Yeah. But it is very interesting. I like that we found out that, yeah, okay, they didn't really, if it was about the shards, or the shard blades and things like that, then they could, then it's not really visible in their treaty. So it's like, it seems to me that yes, okay, shards were involved, but it seems to me, considering what we know from Dalinar, the unite them thing might have been behind this treaty as well,
Yeah.
trying to make the world one. Yeah.
So they, a couple of different things. One, this topic lends context to Yasna's questions about the Parshendi having shard blades in the previous chapter. Not the right previous, but during the span read conversation. But two,
Mhm.
yeah, Yasna specifically says she doesn't know what changed that made Gavilar suddenly so interested, and my mind pretty quickly went to, is that when the Almighty started talking to him? To Gavilar, I mean, because I think we both discussed the probability that that's what was happening to him.
Yeah, that's what we, and now it's just happening to Dalinar. I think, yeah, I'm with you on that. That's the first thing, the first place my mind went. There's something extra here.
Yeah, and it did have me wondering specifically if the Parshendi did something to Gavilar that caused him to hear the Almighty. Now, I don't know if that would have transferred to Dalinar, so I'm less inclined toward that theory, because when would the Parshendi have done whatever it is they did to Gavilar to Dalinar after the fact? But nevertheless, the thought entered into my mind.
Yeah, this thing of this transferring of speaking to the Almighty or hearing things seems like, I don't know, but it might be genetic or something like that. Maybe.
Yep.
We don't know. It could still have been done. We don't know that that the Parshendi didn't do it to Gavilar.
True.
We don't know. We don't know anything.
We don't know anything. There's a passage I would like you to read for us, if I may request it, Lady Kite.
Mhm. When we are young,
Yasna said.
we want simple answers. There is no greater indication of youth, perhaps, than the desire for everything to be as it should, as it has ever been.
Shalon frowned, still watching the men by the tavern over her shoulder.
The older we grow, the more we question. We begin to ask why, and yet we still want the answers to be simple. We assume that people around us, adults, leaders, will have those answers. Whatever they give often satisfies us. I was never satisfied.
Shalon said softly.
I wanted more. You are mature. What you describe happens to most of us as we age. Indeed, it seems to me that aging, wisdom, and wandering are synonymous. The older we grow, the more likely we are to reject the simple answers, unless someone gets in our way and demands they be accepted regardless.
Yasna's eyes narrowed.
You wonder why I reject the devotees? I do. Most of them seek to stop the questions.
Excellent passage.
Mm-hmm.
One of my big thoughts, and it's more like I want you to monologue to me about this, Kitty. How does this passage connect to the young Kaladin chapters, do you think?
On the basis of growth. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can see the theme. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. Monologue at me.
Over the course of several young Cal chapters, we get him asking a lot of questions. Why do the townspeople hate us? And he's struggling to understand these more adult concepts that are being explained to him.
But he
And
wants him on wanting the answers, wanting them to be simple and taking them. And if we're looking at the way he reacts to the answers given to him, he is like Shalon in that he's not really satisfied with them. He gets the answers, cool. Sometimes he can take it and continue, but then he asks questions again.
yeah,
So he's not satisfied. He's like Shalon.
Kaladin and Shalon. Shalon is very young. Both of them have very strong moral intuitions about what is just and what is not.
Yeah, they do. They both Shalon is we see it very much in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Kaladin, young Kaladin and current Kaladin have strict standards of who they think is right, who deserves to live, who doesn't. That sort of thing is actually happening to Kaladin. He's actually to me it feels like Kaladin's gone a little bit more simple in his answers because it's like all light eyes are the worst. So he's found simple answers for himself. It's like, oh, all light eyes are the worst,
That's
and that's
true.
the end of it. So he, as much as we're talking about all the, this layered lessons that you learn when you get older because you keep asking questions, he has found answers and he seems to be stuck to them. And I suspect that he'll be challenged
Yeah.
on them, as well as finding reasons to say, you see, all light eyes are horrible.
Yep. Very much so. I also don't want to glance over this one particular interaction. Shalon says, I wanted more. Yasna says, you were mature. And no, she's not. She is not a mature person. I don't
And
think.
she's mature compared to a child. So she was mature, she wasn't satisfied. But I don't know, if she wasn't satisfied, it was mostly because she thought she knew better. That's what I think.
She has a lot of arrogance in her
Mhm.
that I think is unearned.
Yeah,
I
like very,
go
yeah.
on.
She doesn't have humility in. She's not just curious. She's way confident, and yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, mature maybe in that she's a bit she's asking questions, fine. That's as far as it can go. But it honestly is because she thinks she knows better, which is not a mature thing.
Yeah, she has a very, I guess I'll go back to the word moral intuition about how people should interact in the world. And we certainly see what happens when she's confronted with someone not doing that. And it seems her reaction is to react somewhat petulantly.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
big part of what she does, I think, is framed through this lens of I'm going to teach Yasna a lesson for her
Oh,
misbehavior.
yeah. Yeah. We the consequences of that. I am immediately I thought, oh, you this is not going to go very well because now she has a broken fabrial. But that's well, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's called a fabrial. The
The
soulcaster. Let's just
soul
go.
cast.
Yeah.
The next segment I would like you to read is
You're at an interesting place in your life, Shalon.
Yasna said, flexing her hand.
You are old enough to wonder, to ask, to reject what is presented to you simply because it was presented to you. But you also cling to the idealism of youth. You feel there must be some single, all-defining truth, and you think that once you find it, all that once confused you will suddenly make sense.
Shalon wanted to argue, but Yasna's words were tellingly accurate. The terrible things Shalon had done, the terrible things she had planned to do, haunted her. Was it possible to do something horrible in the name of accomplishing something wonderful? Yasna walked into the narrow alleyway. So, one of the big things that leapt out at me there, in addition to the interesting philosophical ideas that she presented, the terrible things Shalon had done. We both know that there was a traumatic incident in her past. I think we have theorized that it might have been that she killed her father or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I suppose I had been under the impression, though, that that was some sort of traumatic, repressed memory. So for her to think, I've done terrible things, could be in reference to other things.
Other things or that, yeah, we still don't know. Another point in this chapter, she does say this would not be the first time she had betrayed someone who trusted her. So that's another thing, another point that references this horrible thing that Shalon has done. So yeah, it's just winking at us and saying this is something you will find out at some point. So it probably is that it's got to do with the trauma of whatever that situation was. So maybe she does actually know it, but I get the impression that she doesn't want to think about it. She knows it's there. It's not completely repressed that she doesn't know what happened. I think she knows, but whenever it starts to come into her consciousness, she pushes it away. So that's what I think she does with that experience. It's that not that she doesn't know about it. It's that whenever it starts coming back to her in a flashback or whatever, she moves on to the next thing because it's too traumatic. And that part of this wasn't the first time she would be betraying someone who trusted her. That made me think, okay, whoa, she totally did something against her father because trusted her.
I also want to highlight, she does seem to have a very impulsive streak to her.
Yes, quite, as she makes known this.
Yeah. The next passage I would like you to read, Kite, if you don't mind.
That was horrible,
Shalon finally said, hands still held to her breast.
It was one of the most awful things I've ever experienced. You killed 4 men. 4 men who were planning to beat, rob, kill, and possibly rape us. You tempted them into coming for us. Did I force them to commit any crimes? You showed off your gemstones. Can a woman not walk with her possessions down the streets of a city? At night? Through a rough area, displaying wealth? You all but asked for what happened. Does that make it right?
Yasna said, leaning forward.
Do you condone what those men were planning to do? Of course not. But that doesn't make what you did right either. And yet, those men are off the street. The people of the city are that much safer. The issue that Teravangian has been so worried about has been solved, and no more theatergoers will fall to those thugs. How many lives did I just save? I know how many you just took, and through the power of something that should be holy, philosophy in action, an important lesson for you.
Okay. So this is obviously after the fight scene, which I imagine as being visually stunning. Truly, watching the men burst into flames, the guy turn to crystal.
My favorite part was he became fire.
Yeah.
That was really great.
Very much so. And this topic that they have, this whole personal responsibility, it's a common area of debate and discussion, much the way the previous debate they had was, yeah?
Yeah, like religion. Yeah, morality. It's what is right and what is wrong. That's what it is, very much a practical lesson that she's given her, yeah? Or not even lesson, just opportunity to examine her morals.
Yeah. And I think Sanderson does more or less a good job of highlighting what the main points of both sides of the argument are, yeah?
Mhm. Yeah.
So Yasna has decided to play vigilante.
Yeah. How did you feel about this? I'm just wondering, because I was kind of like, yeah. I'm sorry. I guess maybe it was because I like magic and rule of cool, I suppose. And yeah, baddie is gonna get theirs. So literally, it's self defense. It's right there in the. It's been happening, so I'm okay with her being a vigilante at this point. I like Batman, but the
I
thing is, she kills him. So
Yeah, IRL, I don't condone vigilanteism. It's
yeah,
it's not
practical.
allowed for good reason. And
Mhm.
Yesna, I don't necessarily think should have done what she did. It would have been more moral of her, and I think Shalon at one point says, "You didn't have the authority to do that." It would have been more moral of her to go to Teravangian and say, "Hey, do you want me to take care of this problem for you?" And if Teravangian says yes, then whatever gray is here, I feel would have been greatly diminished. But
Mhm.
uh, she went looking to kill those men.
Yeah, and she admits it, which I appreciate as well. She's like,
Yeah.
"No, I very much wanted them to be dead." Yes.
Yeah, and we'll get to that line because so much of what she does and the fact that I think much of it is dark also specifically ties into her morality system and her opinions on her expressed opinions from the last debate about knowing what is right and knowing what is wrong.
Mhm.
It is a sad reality that there are bad people out in the world who will hurt you. And
Mhm.
that is not an excuse, that is not a defense of bad people doing bad things. But Shalon is right that you need to take personal responsibility. You cannot wantonly throw yourself into dangerous situations simply because you believe that other people shouldn't hurt you. And it's like if you jaywalk and you choose not to look both ways before crossing the street and the car hits you,
Mhm.
you can't be unhit by the car. And in many ways it's not helpful to say you should have looked both ways before you crossed the street. That is of course a very tactless thing to say, but there is merit to the argument that wisdom dictates you take proper safety precautions.
Mhm. Well, in Yasna's case, she knows that she has power. She knows that she can actually do something more than what a normal person would do. So she does knowingly put herself in that
But
situation
she didn't
only
but
because
she
she
didn't
only.
just put herself in that situation. She also put Shalon in that situation as well. And she didn't tell Shalon what the intention was. And yeah, it wasn't just her. I know she did it to teach Shalon a lesson.
Mhm. Well, there is arrogance in that. That's like, no, this is good for her. She's made a decision, but as a mentor, that's what she's kind of been mandated to do of some sort. So
Mhm.
she has taken some sort of responsibility for Shalon. So she thought, okay, I have the authority to put her in this situation because it's good for her. Because it's like a mother or whatever deciding for her child that this will be a good lesson. It's kind of like I suppose Calcia bringing Vin along for his heist or whatever.
Right.
Not a good idea. It's supposed to be a learning experience. So she does this with, I suppose, arrogance and confidence in her ability to handle it. She knows in her mind she has not put Shalon in real danger because she's going to turn people into fire.
Right.
It could have. very, very wrong. So I'm not saying that this was a great thing, and it was easy and it was not absolutely reckless. But yeah, and I also see another, just another thing to refer to is, it's a little supposedly throwaway line, but remember Shalon saying, what happened to you, or who hurt you, basically, that sort of thing. When
Right. What
uh
was done to you? Shalon wondered with horror, and who did it? And that's in reference
yes,
to her callousness over the issue.
yeah, the men like that. She says, like, men like that.
Hmm.
So that's also another motivation that is underneath all of this as well. The fact that she's probably, you know, dealing out retribution for something that happened to her before.
Right.
So she feels entitled to it.
Right. The other element that I want to highlight, I'm not a lawyer. I can't speak in great detail about self-defense laws, and I think they vary a little bit from place to place, but
Mhm.
I don't think you can bait someone into attacking you, kill them, and then call it self-defense. In fact, I know that there's a story with more information coming out, so I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but a person said something to the effect of, touch me and see what happens. And then that person ended up killing the other person. And I think it was a big topic of discussion whether or not that event counts as self defense or not. And I think that's still being discussed. But
Mhm.
I'm really highlighting here the fact that she was baiting it, I think counts against her assertion that it's self-defense. But I think she brings up the self-defense thing more as a topic for Shalon to think about, more so than a defense of what she did.
She does think about the self-defense part. She does have the bigger picture in mind as well. That's also something that she's thinking about. How many lives did she save by killing those people? Because those people were killing others. So it's not even just self-defense in the moment. It's defense of others. That's how she's justifying it to herself as well. Because
Yes.
she's now taking 4 lives, but now look, and she solved the problem for Teravangian. She's done all of these things in her mind, and which makes sense with the way that she views the world. She's not going to let anybody else tell her what is right. She's going to go with how she feels. So
Hmm.
all of this makes sense to her. And in terms of the baiting question, when the crime is as brutal, I suppose, as heinous as murder and rape, as she puts in there, because she's decided that that's what they were going to do. When it's that severe, you can't, there's such a line that has to be crossed for the person to attack you.
Hmm.
And that's the greater, for me, that's the greater moral wrongdoing. Sure, we
Right.
could say it's kind of a debate, but for me, with something that big, murder, okay, that's a big deal.
Right.
I don't care. Oh, that's the same thing as, oh, what was she wearing, kind of thing.
Right.
I understand there is a duty to be smart and wisdom and all of that, but principally, that does not diminish the blame of the perpetrator.
Correct. 100%. And I will certainly say that Yasna is 100% correct when she says that she did not force them to attack
Mhm,
her. We can talk about the morality of baiting them, but
mhm,
at the end of the day, they made their choice. And once they committed to that choice, Yasna had to do what she had to do, essentially.
mhm,
But one of the things I think about the idealized version of police work and
mhm,
investigations and things like that is you want to believe, we're talking about simple answers in an idealized way in which the world should work. You want to
mhm.
believe that there would be some sort of process by which you affirm that these were the ones that did the previous crimes. Yasna, to my knowledge, has no idea whether or not these 4 specific footpads were the ones that had been hounding
Yep.
ones in the past. She does not know. She presumes, but she does not know what they would have done in the future. And I want to have the future discussion when we get to the next quote that I want you to read. But all Yasna really knows is what they tried to do to her that night.
She doesn't even know how far they would have gone, actually. She just knows that they threatened her
Right.
with knives.
Right.
Yeah.
So then to get to the future discussion, could you please read?
You could have let the other 3 get away.
Shalon said, walking back toward Yasna, who had sat down to brush her hair.
You only needed to kill one of them. No, I didn't. Why? They would have been too frightened to do something like that again. You don't know that. I sincerely wanted those men gone. A careless barmaid walking home the wrong way cannot protect herself, but I can, and I will. You have no authority to do so, not in someone else's city. True. Another point to consider, I suppose.
So I will say, she does say a handful of times through this conversation, I think, the phrase another point to consider, which strikes me as being much more open to differing points of view than she was about the God topic, where she seemed much more set in her ways. But that said,
I, I'm confused about her saying that because she did tell what's her name, Shalon, that you will spend the next few weeks or next week studying this. So I don't know if she's saying it's another point to consider for you, or if it's something she must consider. But I guess that the ambiguity is on purpose.
that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so she doesn't know what they would have done. And if she had let one live, what she did was remove the opportunity for them to grow and change. Dare I say, find redemption, which is a very religious thing to consider. And there are many ramifications that could have been positive or negative by letting them live. She just doesn't know. And I think it's very, very dark that she says, I wanted those men gone. What gives
Mm-hmm.
you the right to make that choice?
Yeah. Yeah, she that what helps her is this sense that it's her, the only morality that matters is how she feels. It's so it like we've spoken about Shalon's arrogance, but Jasna has quite a lot of arrogance
Right,
because she knows best. She knows best. She can decide who is allowed to live and who isn't,
right,
and she's very confident in that. She's not. She's not. Maybe she. The reason she closes her eyes and turns away from Shalon is kind of like, don't question me, like further. That will make me feel guilty. I don't know. Yeah, she'd made this decision, and
right. And
yeah.
but here's the thing. Yasna has said, given the right whatever, people will choose to do what is right. Did you just choose
Yeah.
to do what is right, Yasna?
Well, she seems to think so.
She
She
clearly
thinks that
thinks
that.
she did. But I suppose I presume that the footpads were. Well, she doesn't know who they were. She doesn't know if they were people who were desperate and hungry or if that they were murderous psychopaths, right? So the the remedy might not be the same depending on what those two situations are. But what happens when the murderous psychopath says, I wanted you gone? Who's right here?
Exactly. And also just when you were saying that, I was thinking of your reference to wisdom
Mm-hmm.
earlier. Like, oh, she doesn't know that these footpads are maybe they're just desperate and whatever. Like, wisdom dictates that when people come at you with a knife, they don't have the best intentions,
Mm-hmm.
and you should do whatever you can to get away from them.
Yes.
You're not going to say to them. You're not going to say, "What are your intentions? Are you okay? I can give you money." Because a lot of the time, what happens when you're attacked is you go, "Yeah, there's not your money or your life. There's just your money and your life." So yeah,
Yeah.
wisdom. the moral conundrum abounds. I'm enjoying it. Sorry, I like the word abounds today.
It's a good word. Yeah, and obviously, I think Sanderson deliberately set this situation up to be gray for the sake of these conversations. And in either case, I think what she did was south of neutral. As
Yeah.
much as I like Yasna, and I still
Yeah.
like Yasna, this is not
Yeah.
a clear
I
cut
also
case.
Yeah, it's not a clear-cut case, and also I can't say I wouldn't do the same. Um, that's the thing that halts me, is that,
Vigilante
yeah,
Kite?
I would properly turn someone into fire if they were attacking me, so thank you. Let's go.
Yes, as well you should. But also don't put yourself in situations where you have to. Or try not to,
Yeah,
you know? Be prepared.
I
Be prepared to if you have to, but don't go looking
mhm.
for opportunities where you get to.
Yes, Mufasa. Basically, Mufasa's like, being brave doesn't mean you go looking for trouble. So, yes, I understand. Yes, sir. I'm not
Yeah.
looking for trouble.
So then, all on this talk of good and bad, Shalon decides to teach Yasna a lesson by stealing the Soulcaster.
Yeah, she doesn't deserve to have it.
Yes. And I wrote in my note, she did a good thing not stealing the Soulcaster. Shalon did. Yasna's
Mhm.
act makes Shalon do a bad thing, because I think stealing the Soulcaster is wrong and bad.
Mhm.
But it makes Shalon do a bad thing under the misapprehension that it is a good thing to teach her some sort of lesson. And that speaks to a skewed morality, or at least a childish morality.
But then Yasna does the same thing.
Does
She
she?
has done a bad well, she's first of all,
A
she
bad thing
yes,
for
she
a
was
good reason.
yeah, for a good reason for herself, and also that question was posed before Shalon actually even got into the full situation. She was thinking to herself, "Is it possible to do something bad for the sake of something extraordinary or something really
Hmm.
good?" So that's the big question for both sides of this. Is it, "Oh, she's done something bad to save lives. Oh, she's done something bad to teach Shalon a lesson." So she's also done that. They've both done this thing where their skewed morality made their decision seem right to them.
Well said. Excellent chapter, dare I say it?
Yes, very good. The suspense of her changing it at the end there was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Turns and looks, opens her eyes, all of that stuff. Also, yeah, what do you think about the decisions? But sorry, we're not done, because she one of the main points that she says is, "You're going to have to make decisions like this, and I'll have you ready for them." So she actually goes and makes this decision that she's going to now swap the soulcaster out,
Mm-hmm.
and she thinks that that's a good thing for her. We didn't discuss the possible ramifications of doing
Yes.
this. Oh, I've taught you a lesson, but what could happen? Immediately, what I thought is she's going to try and do this again, or she gets attacked again and tries to use the soulcaster, and it doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah. So, first off, yeah, the question itself was very poignant to the situation. Yeah. What happens if Yasna tries to do something like this again and then gets harmed because the Soulcaster doesn't work? And Shalon will feel oh so mortified that she got Yasna killed. Do you think that's a possibility? Would, 'cause Yasna still gives me MC energy. There's so much for her to do in this multi-book series. I can't imagine her dying anytime soon, but it feels like it would be such a juicy thing to contemplate for Shalon.
Yeah, because then Shalon has to go and try and learn without her, basically, and Shalon would maybe have to try and figure out what she was trying to figure out and whatever. It's possible. I don't want it to happen, but it's possible. We don't know. We've been trained by Germ that everybody is just everybody can be thrown out in any time.
Yeah.
So
I think because I don't know if Shalon will calm down and then want to continue under Yasna as her ward.
mhm.
but I think it might behoove Shalon to stick around a little bit longer. First off, don't like switch it and run because that'll look suspicious.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
see, I don't think there's any reason for Yasna to suspect Shalon unless there's, ways in which the soul casters work mechanically that we're not privy to. uh,
Mm,
I think it would behoove Shalon to stick around and see what happens the next time Yesna tries to use the broken soul caster, to see if there's some
yeah.
sort of easy fix or if it makes her distraught.
There is actually so much that Shalon doesn't know about soulcasters, as we learned from that, like, because we thought, okay, no, you've got to have physical contact to change the thing, but then she just basically like shot out stormlight at them and made a transformation.
Mhm.
So, and that's something that Shalon didn't know. Oh gosh, that just makes me think of the way she's like, oh, and it's you're using it for something that's so unholy. It's like, well, that's what you're going to use the freaking soulcaster for. You're gonna create wealth for your family. Is that holy? I'm not too sure. Look, it's not killing, but at the same time, it's not. I don't know, praising the Lord.
Yeah.
Hypocrite Shalom.
Yep. She's young, she's impulsive, and she has a worldview and an expectation that others should conform to that worldview.
Yep,
Anything else to say about this chapter?
loved it.
Ditto. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Darn Kite if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.